Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. I'd like to welcome all those on Zoom. And as usual, on people on Zoom, just ask you to stay muted if you already are, and to be muted during the service. This is because it will not be interactive as it was, and the speaker will be on the host's Zoom connection with no way to hear anything on Zoom. And if you talk on Zoom, the camera focus will automatically shift off the person in church to whoever is talking, and we won't notice until there is someone, unless someone is watching the laptop and Zoom channel. And so I would like to say this little prayer that we give thanks to Mother, Father, God for bringing us all together as we support each other in the knowing we are directed and supported through the love and power of God. I would like to do the, first I'd like to say thank you to Michael Dragsten for being our speaker today. This is awesome. So maybe we could read the statement of intent, or I will read it, sorry. We continue to be fortunate to have a variety of speakers for Sunday services, and by using guest speakers, we gain wisdom from all those who share. This is a church community where we can worship the God of our own understanding, to experience joy and be uplifted. To gain strength and inspiration we can share with others throughout the week. We invite you to join us in the celebration of life, to nourish your spirit and to enjoy the community of kindred souls. Now I'd like us to sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth." That would be, you know it. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next, I'd just like to ask if there's any announcements. Yes, Jasmine, come on up. Yay.
Good morning, and I'm happy to let you know that after today, you only need to hear this announcement one more time. We're approaching our annual meeting, which will be on Sunday, October 31st, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just a reminder, this is the time of year when it's most convenient to renew your membership. If you received a letter from the church, and I hope you did, there was a piece of paper there you could cut out to return if you wanted to. There are or were some at the back. We can make more if necessary. It's to help us know that we have support for what we do. And we do ask for a donation, but that is not the most significant part of it. Being a part of our community is the most significant part. Being a member also allows you to vote in our election, which is coming up that day. In that letter, there was also a ballot that you could return if you cannot be here. And also, if you cannot be here and have any opinions on what's going on, probably the easiest way for us to receive that information is by email. The email address was both at the top of the letter and also later in the body. If I remember correctly, it's Interfaith on 9th Street at gmail.com. Couple little carrots to dangle in front of you. We are slowly beginning to gather downstairs after church if people wish to do so. Masks are still required. Masks are required anywhere in the building, except when you're talking or eating or drinking. And we do encourage social distancing. The only exception to gathering downstairs is one Sunday a month when there's a board meeting. And that's because that's the only space large enough to allow us to gather and still distance at the same time. And that is today. Yes, we do have a board meeting today at 11:30. Getting back to, if you're going to send in an email comment, please do that by Wednesday before the annual meeting, which I believe is the 27th, to give us time to read any comments and, put them together with whatever we might need. I know, but the Wednesday before. That's okay. Yes, and a meeting's the 31st, the Wednesday before, which we're asking to be the deadline for email messages. And I think that's it. Oh, I have a personal request. My sister and brother-in-law in St. Paul both have nasty colds to the point where they went to the doctor for antibiotics. And of course, I know they don't hand out antibiotics for colds, but there may be some sinus infections or whatever. My brother-in-law is 89, has had a couple of heart procedures. He's fragile. So, of course, whether anyone knows they're being prayed for or not, the prayer helps. Their names are Carol and Tom. So if you could send those up, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Does anybody else have any announcements or even prayer requests at this time? Yes, Sue. Yes, thank you.
I have a very good friend named Brooke and his mother, who is right now in Africa. They winter there usually, but haven't been able to come home in a year and a half. She fell and broke her hip and is 75. He did not give me what her name was, but if you could just send out healing thoughts that direction, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I'd like to mention again, like as I did last week, we did get these things in the mail from RSVP, retired senior, to AARP, but it's, anyway. And this is Minnesota Energy Programs application for help with fuel assistance and whatever. We have a bunch of these downstairs. And so just to let you know, it's available. And yeah, thank you very much. And so perhaps, Michael, you could come and sing us a beautiful song at this time. Here comes Michael Anderson.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you once again for the opportunity to sing. I talked to Michael to see what he was going to be talking about, and I usually try to jive my song with what he's talking about, and I have no idea really right now whether this works or not, but in the past it's been incredibly serendipitous that the words of the song match the speaker's theme. And you're welcome to sing along, but make sure that your audio is off, okay? But the people in the church here can join me. From the Lion King. From the day we arrive on the planet, and blinking stepped into the sun. There's more to be seen than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Some say eat or be eaten, some say live and let live, but all are agreed as we join the stampede, you should never take more than you give. It's the circle of life, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and love, till we find our place on the path unwinding. Oh, it's the circle of life, the circle of life.
Hello, hello, hello.
Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars, and some of us sail through our troubles, and some have to live with the scars. There's far too much to take in here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun rolling high through the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless round in the circle of life. The wheel of fortune, the leap of faith, the band of hope, till we find our place on the path unwinding. Oh, in the circle of life, the circle of life. On the path unwinding, ooh, the circle of life, the circle of life.
Thank you, Michael. That was so beautiful. So next, I would like to say the principles on your cards. Okay. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We believe in our universal connection in spirit and that there is communication between spiritual and physical worlds. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule. Whatsoever you would that others should do unto you, do also unto them. We affirm the moral responsibility of individuals and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul here or hereafter. And we affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing are divine attributes contained in all sacred texts. Thank you. Michael, I would like to invite you to come up. And this is Michael Dragsten. And so, thank you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm in the habit of having my mask on all the time. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Beautiful weather outside. Wish we could all be outdoors, and sitting together, having a talk. Today's talk will be on the philosophy and science of mind. And I know it's a very big topic, it's very ambitious, so I'll just try to summarize some of the key findings that I have discovered over the years. It's always been a passion of mine. How's the sound? Is it okay? Okay, good. So why am I interested in this topic, the philosophy and science of mind? Holy cow. Well, it raises a lot of interesting questions. Questions like, who am I? What is my relationship to this physical world? What is this thing called the mind? These subjective mental states that we all have, that we can all experience internally. How do we describe it? Can we define it? Is it even possible? Can this even be a topic of scientific inquiry? So, those kinds of questions that I have always pondered and thought about. So basically today, I just want to, share with you some of the discoveries made lately in, for example, in the field of cognitive science, psychology, physics and philosophy, philosophy of language, cognitive ethology, which is sort of a bridge between biology and psychology. So some of the empirical studies that's been done in the field of consciousness studies. I think it's quite fascinating. Well, first of all, I'd like to begin by providing a brief definition or sort of a brief description of what I think the mind would entail. It's just some of the qualities or attributes. Granted, it's virtually impossible to provide a full definition. I mean, it just can't be done. So in my opinion, what is the mind? Okay, well, I think, possessing a mind would entail, obviously, possessing thoughts, feelings, emotions, concepts, and having certain mental representations, mental states such as thinking, feeling, believing, judging, things like that. What else? Other qualities, of course, for human minds would be sentience, the capacity to feel pain, pleasure, and so forth. Sentience is definitely a quality. Self-awareness is definitely a characteristic of conscious minds, being able to, being aware of one's body, as well as one's mental states. So self-awareness, definitely. Cognition, problem solving, being able to, work through abstract problems, coming up with a solution. So things like that. Creativity, creative thinking, as well as logical thinking. So these are all different attributes that we can ascribe to the mind, at least human minds, in my opinion. And the list goes on, right? So that's just a start, a beginning. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about the mind-brain correlation. How is the mind something that may be non-physical in nature, these subjective mental states and experiences? How can they be correlated with physical things, physical brain states? The consensus theory, the standard theory of the mind is that the mind is nothing more than the brain. Maybe it's kind of the two things are identical. I think it's kind of a fallacy. The argument is kind of weak. I don't think the relationship is identical. I don't think it's a causal relationship necessarily, because if you have something that's non-physical, how does it relate? How can it relate with physical things, right? It's a logical problem there. However, I believe the relationship is more of a correlation. So mind states, mental states are more correlated with physical brain states and events, the neurons firing, the synapses, the synaptic activities in the brain and so forth, right? So there's a correlation definitely involved. I'm so sure about a causal relationship, maybe. I am a little skeptical about that. So, oops, microphone. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of, in the field of neuroscience, neurophysiology, definitely in the field of cognitive science, psychology, and also among many philosophers, I don't know a lot of philosophers, but, they believe that, we can get rid, we should just get rid of the word mind or consciousness, because it's something that's invisible, it cannot be measured. So let's just get rid of it and just talk about physical things, physical brain states. We can measure that, right? We can look at that, analyze it, use physics to describe the brain. It's a very elegant picture, really. However, I think the picture is severely flawed because it does not take into consideration all these subjective mental states and experiences that we have, Whether or not they belong to a category of physical states, I'm not really sure, but I think they should definitely be discussed. We should not abandon them, And I do believe that it is possible that it could be a topic of scientific inquiry, even though they may not be it's not part of hard science, stuff that you can really measure. But I think you can study it maybe indirectly, through behavior, through our actions, through language and communication. I think language is, I forgot to mention that in the beginning. Language is definitely an indicator of the presence of another mind. So stuff like that, we can definitely measure. So yeah, in the classical theory, the consensus theory of the mind is really nothing more than the brain. Perhaps this is too simplistic of a picture, but at least that's what a lot of neuroscientists believe. Okay, so we can just study the brain, look at the physical actions of neurons and synapses, right? And the brain is just another type of computation machine. It's a computer, a biological computer. And we could, theoretically replicate it, in a machine, right? And so that raises a lot of interesting questions. What if a computer, supposedly if we could replicate human intelligence in a machine, and then supposedly the machine would be just as intelligent as we are, if not, exceeding our own intelligence, perhaps even being sentient, self-aware. A lot of science fiction writers have talked about this. It's bizarre. It's crazy. Are we quite there yet? I doubt it. I don't think so. Some people believe that machines are self-aware, conscious to some extent. I'm a little skeptical. I think machines and computers, especially very advanced AI systems, can mimic human intelligence, but it's not the same thing as exhibiting qualities of understanding, perceiving, knowing, judging. But they can definitely do a good job of mimicking human intelligence, for sure. One particular AI system is quite fascinating. I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard about this in the news lately, but it's called AlphaGo. AlphaGo is an artificially intelligent system that has defeated a number of world champions in a game of Go. I don't know if you've ever played Go. It's an ancient Chinese game, similar to chess, where you have a bunch of beads on a board and you try to like capture your opponent's pieces or try to like surround them, right? It's a lot simpler than a game of chess. However, it has like way more moves. You know, so something like, so the total possible number of moves in a game of Go is something like 10 to the, how many zeros, gosh, I don't remember. But anyways, it's more than the number of atoms in our solar system, I believe. It's crazy. And so, and so these scientists and engineers that have designed this incredibly advanced AI system, AlphaGo, is based on the design of neural networks, based on the human brain, how it receives input, and basically learns from that and just evolves. It just continuously evolves and acquires knowledge and it's just really amazing. Is that it could learn 1,000 years of human knowledge in a single day. It's absolutely insane. So basically, this system, AlphaGo, and its successor, AlphaZero, yeah, so far it has remained undefeated in Go. Fascinating. So stuff like that. If this, in the way that technology these, especially computer technology, is evolving, it's frightening. It is frightening. Scientists such as Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist, have theorized, speculated that perhaps within the century, AIs will become so advanced that they might pose a threat to humanity. I don't know. I mean, that seems to be a bit extreme. I don't think it'll ever get to that point. And I don't. If that were to occur, I don't think human beings would be prepared, at least socially. I mean, we're just not socially prepared for anything like that. Ethically, oh my God. But I am not inclined to think that we are headed in that direction because of some of the things that I am about to share with you. So I have sort of outlined some of the classical depiction of the mind, how it's like a computer, like it's nothing more than a brain, and we can just use computational algorithms to try to replicate this, right? No, I kind of doubt that. I think the mind, I believe the mind is something that is inherently non-physical. It cannot be replicated. You cannot really artificially design these internal mental states. I think it's non-physical and non-mechanistic. We cannot use mechanical theories, so Newtonian theories, classical theories to describe the inner workings of the mind. And so some of these ideas are coming from the latest discoveries made in the field of quantum biology and quantum chemistry. I know the word quantum throws off a lot of people. Okay, so I'll try to minimize the use of that term. Basically, what I mean by that is the mind is inherently non-classical in nature, to put it in layman's terms. And a quantum phenomena refers to non-classical states or events. And typically, when we talk about these things, we're referring to subatomic particles and elements, very, very tiny elements such as photons and electrons. And they do not behave in a classical, mechanical manner, so to speak. And they seem to defy to some extent, defy the laws of physics. They don't really, I don't know. I mean, do they operate in space and time? Does causality have any relevance to the behavior of these subatomic particles? I don't know. There's a lot of questions that philosophers and physicists have asked, and to this day, we're not really sure. So that's what I mean by quantum phenomena, okay? Non-classical events, non-classical phenomena, right? Well, whoa, too close to the microphone. I'll back off. So some of the things that I've discovered in the field of quantum biology in regards to consciousness studies, studies on the brain, it seems to indicate, it's just bizarre, it's just crazy. It seems to, some of these studies seem to suggest that the brain may exhibit quantum-like activities on a very large scale. Now this is not the mainstream view, okay? Most scientists think that the brain is too warm of an environment. The temperature is too high. In order for large-scale quantum activities to take place in a biological system, the temperatures would have to be very, very low, like in superfluidity or superconductivity. For example, Bose-Einstein condensates, which exhibit superfluidity at very, very low temperatures. So the brain, they say is too warm, it's too messy. You cannot have quantum phenomena taking place, certainly not in a large scale, right? However, some of the recent research suggests otherwise. In this 2014 article, the research done by, how am I doing in time? Okay, I'm doing all right. By Bonder, let's see, what's the guy's name again? Some scientists from Japan. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. How do you pronounce his name? Bandiapatiye. Yeah, Bandiapatiye et al. In a 2014 research, they suggest that large-scale quantum coherence can take place in the human brain. In other words, in layman's terms, they're saying that the brain can exhibit quantum-like activities. It's not a classical thing. Okay, so we can't use classical theories to describe large-scale brain activities. Wow, amazing. And this recent, I just found this morning. Here's an article from, let's see, research. Okay, on macroscopic quantum phenomena in bio. Okay, so these a group of scientists led by Rakovich et al., published in 2014. They have shown that large-scale or macroscopic quantum phenomena can take place in biomolecules. That is possible in biological systems. So this is fairly recent, 2014. I also want to mention this anesthesiologist by the name of Stuart Hameroff from the University of Arizona. He and the famous British mathematician by the name of Roger Penrose from Oxford University. Now, Roger Penrose was the recipient of the Nobel Prize in Physics for 2020. And anyways, and he also, Penrose is also a colleague of Stephen Hawking. They did some research in the field of black holes. But anyways, so Penrose and Hameroff have teamed up to create this really elaborate theory of consciousness called, no, check this out, orchestrated objective reduction of brain microtubules. It's a huge mouthful. The nickname for it is ORC-OR, which is very it's a funny title. Anyway, in their elaborate and crazy theory, they try to demonstrate that that consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, and that it takes place amongst brain microtubules. Now, microtubules are these cylindrical cytoskeletal units that reside within neurons, and they're responsible for the computational functioning of neurons. And what Hameroff has shown is that anesthetics can effectively erase consciousness by dampening the coherent activities of these microtubules. Okay, so namely the quantum activities of brain microtubules. They believe that it is possible that quantum coherence is possible amongst these microtubules because of the unique water that is contained in these microtubules. It's like a gel-like state. The environment seems to support conditions for quantum coherence phenomenon. Okay, so basically what they're and Penrose believes that these quantum activities are governed by gravity, quantum gravity. So so there's a quantum gravity underpinning to these kinds of events. But yeah, so their theory is it's probably one of the most debated theories currently in the field of consciousness studies. Whole bunch of articles out there, you can check it out. There's also been a lot of interviews between Penrose and Hameroff. You can check it out on YouTube. Really interesting. But yeah, so a lot of these guys, not a lot. I mean, it's kind of a minority, a group of scientists, but they all basically are saying that, hey, consciousness is not a mechanistic thing. It's not like a clock. You can just, disassemble it and try to figure out, how it works. It's not like that. It's not a machine. It is uniquely non-classical. It's non-mechanistic. Okay. It's not. It may be not non-physical, and so that's kind of goes back to my my previous statement that if that is the case, if consciousness is something, if the human mind is something that is inherently non-physical in nature, non-mechanistic, it is not bound by the laws of space and time. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That introduces a possibility of a non-finite or infinite eternal being, something that transcends the physical material plane. So could that be what consciousness is? Something that is infinite in nature, something perhaps that's more akin to the human soul? It raises a lot of interesting questions here. Introduces the idea of divinity, right? I mean, if it's not a machine, you can't take it apart and analyze it in terms of its mechanistic components. It might be something more akin to God, something, this universal soul. I don't know. A lot of skeptics. Now, it's not for, I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, of course, this is not a physical thing, right? Well, it's really for the skeptics and atheists and agnostics. I just kind of want to challenge that view. It's like maybe not everything is physical in nature. Maybe not everything can be explained by the physical sciences. I don't know. I mean, is this really, really, really fascinating? Something that transcends the physical world. May have even there's the notion that there might even be this universal consciousness, universal soul that pervades the entire universe. The creator of the universe, has preceded the Big Bang. Has always been and always will be. I don't know. It's really interesting to think about. Yeah, so the quantum theory of consciousness. Um, back in artificial intelligence, if that is the, I'm sorry, if that is the way to go, if we were crazy enough to try to design a system that is self-aware, I suppose that's the way to go, by means of quantum mechanics, quantum computation. As a matter of fact, there are a group of computer scientists and engineers who are headed in that direction, who believe that we need a completely different kind of mechanism, different kind of computation, not classical computation, but quantum computation, to artificially design a system that would not only mimic human intelligence, but fully replicate it, which is frightening. And that brings a lot of ethical questions, if, let's say 100, 1,000 years, we build our very first quantum computer. We haven't built one yet. We have established some foundations or cornerstones of building one. If we were to actually build one, and this machine ends up becoming self-aware like we are, end up being sentient, what does that mean? We would have to ascribe rights to it, right? The status of personhood. The computers are like people, persons. I think Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction writer, talked about this in some of his books, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think we're still a long ways from that, and I hope we don't really get to that point. But actually, for the final part of my talk, I want to, just talk a little bit about the mind. So I know I talked a little bit about some of the qualities and attributes of human minds and human intelligence, and also in relationship to AI, artificial intelligence, machine intelligence, and so forth. I want to talk about animal minds. What about animals? What about animals? Well, to be honest, I think that non-human animals are sentient as well. They're capable of, feeling pain, pleasure, and they have feelings and thoughts and feelings like we do. And I believe that the animals are many of the non-human animals are self-aware. Now, what are some of the tests that we could design, for, the biologists, cognitive scientists, cognitive ethologists, what are some of the things what are some of the tests they have designed to test for intelligence in non-human animals? Well, one such test is called the mirror test for self-awareness. The mirror test for self-awareness. Basically what that is that basically it's a test that tries to measure an aspect of one's awareness, namely an awareness of one's body. Proprioception is the term for that, awareness of one's position and movement of one's body, right? And we can measure it actually empirically. And basically what that entails is we have a mirror positioned in a room, so the animal is presented with a mirror, and we can basically study the animal's behavior in front of the mirror, right? And what does that look like? Well, for a lot of the animals, what we have seen is that they tend to display, at least in the beginning, they like to display social behaviors. They think that the reflected image is like some other creature, and they may bark. The dogs will bark at it. They'll wag the tail, or the hairs go up, right? Or they might even look behind the mirror, just thinking that there's someone there. All right, social behavior. So so probably a sign that the animal does not really have an awareness of his own body. Surprisingly, a number of species have passed the mirror test for self-awareness. The great apes, pretty much all the great apes have passed it. The chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, gorillas, all these guys have passed the mirror test. Well, now what would they do? Well, for example, they might use the mirror. They might use the mirror to to groom themselves, to access a part of the body that would otherwise be inaccessible to them. And in a variation of the mirror test, it's called the mirror mark test for self-awareness. And basically, a certain dye, a chemical dye, is placed on a part of the body that they would not be able to see. It's in their blind spot. So these guys were going from the mirror and they try to tap it, and to try to touch that mark on their forehead or whatever, but completely ignore the sham. The sham mark that's the transparent mark to take the control into consideration, right? But they're only focused on the dye, the visible mark. So that's indicative of self-directed activities, non-social activities, right? A sign of self-awareness, at least among the great apes. That's not all. The elephants, Asian elephants, have passed the mirror mark test for self-awareness. Yeah. So what these guys would do is that when they've been chemically marked, like on their, on the side of their forehead, and they would use their trunk in front of the mirror to tap it, but completely ignore the sham. Fascinating. Asian elephants have passed the mirror mark test. Who else? Bottlenose dolphins. Bottlenose dolphins. Now, this is a little more tricky because they don't have the same kind of limbs as we do, right? So what scientists have seen that the dolphins tend to maneuver themselves in a manner, they will kind of position their bodies in front of the mirror in a way that allows them to perceive that mark on their bodies, that's in their blind spot, right? And it's not, and these behaviors are not seen in a social setting. So these are non-social kinds of behaviors, indicative of self-directed ones, a sign of self-awareness among bottlenose dolphins. And the latest research among these dolphins, called Precocious Development of Self-Awareness in Dolphins, published by Morrison and Reese, PLOS. You can download the PDF from the journal. They have shown that self-awareness takes place at a much earlier age than previously assumed, among dolphins, between 2 and 3 years of age. So at a very young age. And I think for children, human children, it takes place, self-awareness is first exhibited at around 1.5 years of age, something like that, 1.5 to 2 years, something. So right around the same time, which is really, really interesting. So yeah, self-awareness amongst bottlenose dolphins, really, really cool. Horses. Horses have also passed. Yep. And check this out. Magpies. Magpies. Among all God's creatures, magpies have passed the mirror mark test for self-awareness. Now, what do they do in front of a mirror when they've been marked with the dye? Well, they might use their feet to try to scrape it off. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm sure the list is gonna, it's gonna continue. We're gonna find more species that will, exhibit qualities of self-awareness, proprioception. Absolutely fascinating, absolutely stunning. I think another, other indicators of non-human animal intelligence are, tool use, using tools. So we've seen this in the wild, all the time. Chimpanzees, for example, the great apes might use a stone hammer to crack open nuts. New Caledonian crows. These crows are, magpies, as a part of the crow family. They have these huge brains, relative to, to their body, right? The brain-body ratio, you know what I mean? Okay, they're very, very large brains. Same thing, bottlenose dolphins, right? Asian elephants. These guys, they have very large brains, and they're capable of doing many, many creative kinds of tasks, really good with problem solving, stuff like that. right? So tool use is one thing. As I was going to say about these crows, New Caledonian crows, we have seen them. Uh, we have seen these guys fashioning spears out of leaves. It's crazy. I mean, they would take a large piece of leaf, and they would strip pieces off of it with their beak and make spears out of it to hunt. Isn't that cool or what? Yeah, so tool use, making tools, manufacturing tools. Not unique. These are not uniquely human traits. Language use. Yep, we've taught the chimpanzees how to use a language, sign language, and they can communicate with us using signs. You know, these are all indications of intelligence amongst non-human animals, right? Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, so what? You know, of course I knew this, right? Michael, I already know that. Of course animals have thoughts and feelings. Who cares? Well, I care. It's really for the skeptics, for people who believe that animals are nothing more than dumb creatures. They're dumb, they don't have thoughts and feelings like we do. So what's wrong with killing them? What's wrong with torturing them? Well, I think it's kind of a dangerous view. It's a very dangerous view, and I want to challenge that perspective. I mean, it's just all the senseless killings going on around the world these days. It's just, I want to challenge the view that animals are nothing more than dumb, stupid creatures. Based on the latest research that I've shared with you guys, I think that the science tells us otherwise. That other non-human creatures are capable of feeling pain, so we ought not to torture them, or kill them in a senseless manner. It's inhumane. It's unethical. These are sentient beings. These are God's creatures, for Pete's sakes. So shouldn't we treat them with more kindness? Have more reverence for life, not just for non-human animals, but for people too, human beings. If we're not, if we're not just these physical, beings here, we're not like robots or anything like that. I think we should treat human beings with more care, reverence as well. We're not just these we're not just in this part of this material physical world, but we're also divine beings, and so we all deserve that kind of respect. So it has a lot of ethical implications, if we take some of these ideas into consideration. So kind of leave it leave it at that. It's just like, so what what is the mind, and what is our what is our relationship to the world that we live in? And I think to be honest, I think I think the mind is something that is more akin to the human soul, the intelligent aspect of the soul, and is something that that transcends the material physical plane, and this is a divine characteristic that we all pretty much share as human beings. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. That's just profound information, deep thoughts. Yes. I would like to have someone bring the offering baskets up, please. And we could sing number 74. I would like to say blessings on these gifts to all of us, to our beautiful church. Promotion, just the space, wherever we're going with this church is amazing. I'm so excited, and thank you, everyone. And, of course, anyone on Zoom, feel free, to send an offering, 1414 East 9th Street, Duluth, 55805. And we're just so very grateful, and all is well. And so, all right. So finally, the church affirmation on your card. We totally accept the belief that God is in charge of the affairs and direction of Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. We know that as our thoughts of trust and joyful anticipation join in harmony with the thoughts of all the members of this fellowship, we attract the right ministerial leadership to our spiritual community. And we are grateful. Now I'm going to end with our unity prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We'll see you next week. And I ask for our board members, we'll meet downstairs for our meeting. And I'm sorry, the rest of you can't just hang out downstairs this time, but next week. Okay, thanks, everybody. It's been awesome. Sing, yes. What are we going to sing? Oh.